Numerous historical figures have been referred to as among the wealthiest ever. And our top 10 list for today includes people who lived before the start of modern history, which was after World War II. We've also compiled the published approximations of their net worth, which have been adjusted for inflation. It was a difficult task to compare wealth because of inaccurate data, different timelines and personas, and economic structure. And because we aim to please, we tried our best to check all available resources for this video. But before we get on to our video, click on the subscribe button if you still haven't. Don't forget to click the notification bell as well, so you're always notified whenever we have a new video. So, let's get right to it. Top 10. William the Conqueror, $229.5 billion. William the Conqueror, William the Bastard, William I, or William of Normandy, was one of the greatest warriors and overlords of the Middle Ages. He was born in Falaise, Normandy, France, around 1028, and died in Rouen on September 9, 1087. He became the most powerful lord in France and went on to become England's ruler. William's wealth was determined through land ownership and taxes. During his time, new systems of land ownership and military service were formed. He was also responsible for the numerous castles that sprawled the countryside, and these structures became representations of the new government. He had a huge impact on England's history as both a conqueror and a monarch, and it's no wonder that he amassed $229.5 billion from all his conquests. Top 9. Mir Osman Ali Khan, $230 billion. Mir Osman Ali Khan, the last Nizam or ruler of Hyderabad, was regarded as the richest Indian ever. In fact, Hyderabad was the biggest princely or native state in British India, and Mir is a title reserved for aristocratic descendants of medieval commanders. The last Nizam ruled for almost 40 years and accumulated a breathtaking $230 billion. The Golconda mines, the sole supply of diamonds in the world at the time, were the main source of his wealth, and the Jacob diamond, a stunning 185-carat polished gem, was only used by Mir Osman as a paperweight. Oh, and to illustrate how rich the Mir truly was, he gifted the late Queen of the UK the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace worth an estimated $80.5 million today for her wedding to Prince Philip. The gift set included a tiara aside from the necklace, and they are considered the most expensive royal jewelry to date. Top 8. Tsar Nikolai II, Alexandrovich Romanov, $300 billion. At the 8th spot, we have Tsar Nikolai with an approximate net worth of $300 billion. He is considered the last Russian emperor who governed so ineptly that he was able to turn Russia into a communist country. During the Tsar's rule, the people worked almost half a day for 6 days and barely had anything to show for all the hard work they did. It was also during his time that a lot of people died due to wars, starvation, or inflation. And whenever these people compared their living conditions to their ruler who lived in luxury, their hatred grew more and more until, well, you know what happened. Being rich and a monarch doesn't seem to be as exciting and rewarding as we thought, or at least in Nikolai's case. Top 7. John D Rockefeller, $341 billion. John D Rockefeller started making investments in the oil sector in 1863, and by 1880, his Standard Oil Corporation was in charge of 90% of the nation's oil production. And this, ladies and gents, was how Rockefeller made his fortune, amounting to $341 billion as adjusted. Then again, Rockefeller, along with other significant industrialists like steel baron Andrew Carnegie, heavily invested in philanthropic activities. His fortune was primarily used to establish foundations that had a significant impact on medicine, scientific research, and education. Aside from being extremely rich, he was also known for establishing the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, now called the Rockefeller University. Top 6. Andrew Carnegie, $372 billion. Andrew Carnegie, estimated to be worth $372 billion, was a philanthropist and industrialist of Scottish descent. Considered one of the wealthiest Americans in history, Carnegie became rich and surpassed Rockefeller when he sold his company to J.P. Morgan for $303,404,000, a very large price tag, even today. Carnegie didn't seem to like being rich so much because when he was 33, he wrote, and we quote, "The amassing of wealth is one of the worst species of idolatry." Furthermore, he also wanted to retire at the young age of 35 to devote his time to philanthropic work. However, he was 46 when he truly started giving away his fortune. He has donated about 90% of his wealth to universities, foundations, and charities. Top 5. Jakob Fugger, $400 billion or 2% of Europe GDP. Jakob II, commonly known as Jakob Fugger of the Lily or the Rich, was a significant German banker, miner, and merchant, and he is estimated to be worth $400 billion today, which is about 2% of Europe's GDP during that time. He was so rich that his family was the first German trading company that loaned the Vatican funds to build some of the well-known properties within its walls. In this way, Fugger was able to build a strong connection with the church that he even shelled out money to recruit the Pontifical Swiss Guard in 1505. With such enormous wealth, it would make sense to establish foundations and contributions. And Fugger did just that. Since the 16th century, the Fugger Foundations have existed continuously. Jakob and Anton Fugger desired to offer housing called Fugger Ray and healthcare services to the people of Augsburg. 9 Fugger Foundations exist today. Can you guess who our top 4 richest people in history are? We'll give you a hint. You've probably read about them in history books. Top 4. Akbar I, 25% global GDP. Akbar, the most powerful emperor of the Mughal dynasty in India, ruled over an empire that produced nearly 1/4 of the world's economic output. Also known as Akbar the Great, the Mughal head of state was responsible for increasing the wealth of his empire through strategic marriage alliances, diplomacy, and military conquest. Akbar was often described as illiterate, but some say that he was merely dyslexic. Additionally, he was barely in his teens when he ascended the throne, and his general ruled until he became of age. Regardless, he was considered the greatest Mughal emperor. We believe that, especially since Akbar was considered to be richer than his Western counterparts during that time. Top 3. Emperor Shenzhang of Song, 25% to 30% global GDP. The Song dynasty in China, which lasted from 960 to 1279, was considered to be one of the most prosperous dynasties in history. The country's peak contribution to global economic output was between 25% and 30%, according to economic historians. If estimated, the emperor would have had about $30 trillion to enjoy. The riches of the empire was derived from its technological advancements, as well as its extraordinary competence in tax collection, which was way ahead of the Western governments. Records also show that Shenzhang spent his country's money on improving the lives of his subjects. Still, we can't be sure about the other expenses that he might have made, as there are barely any records left. Top 2. Augustus Cesar, $4.6 trillion. Augustus Cesar, the first emperor and the first citizen of Rome, made a straightforward political maneuver that made him the second richest person in history at an adjusted worth of $4.6 trillion. So what was this political maneuver, you ask? It's this. He impressed Julius Caesar in combat that he was then appointed heir to the throne and fortune. But that's not all. He also improved taxation, which led to consistent payments. He was considered the governing power in every prosperous province, which resulted in him controlling the taxes. Additionally, he got to own Egypt when he declared himself as a pharaoh's successor and annexed the country. Before we go on to the top 1 richest person in history, subscribe to the channel by clicking the red button. Click the notification bell as well, so you'd be notified whenever we release a new video. Top 1. Mansa Musa I. Indescribable wealth. Mansa Musa I ruled a kingdom that included all of Africa, and his domains were in charge of important trade routes and the richest gold reserves in the world. He amazed onlookers by leading a brilliant procession of camels and slaves carrying gold bars, canes, and dust during a journey to Mecca. He was also believed to be an avid supporter of the legal system and academic research. So, what made Mansa Musa the richest person in history? The story goes like this. He embarked on a pilgrimage to the two holy cities Mecca and Medina. He made a long journey across the Sahara from the Niger River's bank to the Nile and the Red Sea. And he wasn't alone. He was accompanied by hundreds of slaves and thousands of troops, bringing gold, salt, and other valuables. When Musa made a detour in Cairo, he allegedly used or gifted an obscene amount of gold that the price of the metal fell throughout Egypt. Which of the richest people on our list surprised you the most? Let us know in the comment section below. See you in our next video, and always remember, Invictus Luxury, for people who want more.